Perkins reaches out over the comms. Pilots, I've got more info for you. I've been analyzing that power signal, and it's connected to the docking bay launch process. When the signal reaches maximum strength, another wave of autofighters will launch. A lot of them. Captain Soma takes over. That's not the only signal we're receiving, pilots. Now that we're in close range, we're also picking up a second comm signal. It's weak and appears to be a repeating distress call. Your orders are to investigate the asteroid, find out whether there's a way to stop the countdown, and see if whoever is sending that distress message needs our help. We're on our own out here and can't turn down any chances to find new tech or potential allies. Hey everyone, welcome back to Solo Party. My name is Kane, and we are back to our playthrough of Stars of Akarios with our first world exploration scenario. For world exploration, we use the hull marker to track our character health, which is listed on the back of their character card. The shield value is used for our energy, and so in a 4-player game, everybody gets 6 energy. And then we still have a stress track for our characters, which start at 0 unless we're otherwise told. Our characters will also have different skill values, so we have strength, dexterity, intelligence, and charm, which will be used when we interact with different points of interest during the world exploration phase. The first thing that happens during the world exploration phase is the reduce energy phase, and every pilot is going to simultaneously reduce their energy by 1, so we all started at 6, so we all are going to get reduced to 5. And then we'll move into the pilot action phase where we'll be interacting with the different points of interest, and you can actually see on this tile, we have one of each of the 3 different types, and so let's go over those real quick. At the very bottom here, you can see this move and explore action. And so you can see this little square symbol at the bottom with the slash through it. It shows an orange and a yellow here, which means it can either take a attack or a move action die to explore. And so anytime you want to interact with a point of interest, you're going to commit a number of your action die and then roll them and then use those results to interact. So basically with this one, you cannot fail it. You can use a move or an attack, but if you do end up rolling a stress when you commit one, you do still increase your stress by 1. The number 4 there at the top tells you what tile you then place and explore in the direction of the arrow. Next, we have an investigation check there, and so when you commit 2 of any die, again increasing your stress by 1, if you have to use a stress result, you then read the entry listed above. So committing 2 die, we then read scenario 3. For different skill and investigation checks, if they don't have the repeat icon like this one does here at the bottom, you'll then cover it with a black resource cube to show that it has been discovered already. Next, on the left here, we have a strength skill check. We need a total skill value of 3 to perform it, and if you commit a die, it has to be an attack or a wild. And so for these skill checks, you're going to look at the values on your character boards. And so say if we were going to use Gang for this skill check, she has a strength of 1. So we would need to commit 2 action die of attack or wild or stress to add to that 1 strength value in order to succeed that check. And let's go ahead and start to see some of that in action. Mostly everything here is a move, and we do have the 1 investigation, so while we're here, I will probably go ahead and investigate. The one thing we are going to do before we start exploring, however, in the bottom left corner, you can see here, this is a stop action, and it basically just tells you as soon as you explore this, before doing anything else, you need to read the entry listed. So let's read entry 1 to get started. The main docking bay the automatons launched from has a defensive force field, so this landing platform was your only option. You'll be exploring on foot from here. As you step from your ship, it takes a few seconds to get used to the low gravity of the asteroid. 3 narrow access tunnels wind away from the landing pad, weaving their way across the asteroid's rocky surface. They each appear to head towards different areas: a cluster of structures to the east, the automaton docking bay to the south, and the docking claws to the west. You can't help but feel a little exposed out here with the stars wheeling above you as the asteroid rotates. Best to keep your eyes focused on the horizon and get to work. And exploration is similar to space combat in that you don't have to use all of a character's actions before you switch off to someone else. So the first thing I like to look at here, we do have a skill check that uses strength, and so I want to see which of our players has the best strength value in order to complete that, and that is going to be Mad Monk. So I think the first thing I want to do is to attempt to do that strength skill check with Mad Monk. He's got a skill value of 2, so we really only need to roll 1 attack value in order to get this. And so that's what I think I'm going to do. I'm going to commit 1 die and try to roll an attack. And we got the wild, so we will use that as an attack with our 2 strength skill value to succeed. And so we're going to read entry 2. The access passageway heading in this direction is primarily filled with rubble and other debris. Perhaps there's been some shift on the surface of the asteroid. You manage to force your way through, nudging girders and pushing rubble aside to get past. As you reach the other side, you can see the debris behind you has settled back into place, making the corridor just as challenging for anyone who follows you. However, from this direction, it seems that you may be able to rely on your agility to get back by going over the debris rather than brute forcing your way through it. Explore and move to card 3. And now we have another icon telling us to read entry 7. All around you are giant docking claws reaching up from the asteroid's surface. They resemble gigantic cranes topped by powerful looking clamps. One of these clamps has an old, battered looking freighter attached to it, firmly held in place. The other docking claws are all empty and open, like hands reaching out into space. Towering around you, the docking claws utterly dwarf everything else here, including a small, functional looking building that could be a control complex of some kind. Okay, we've definitely opened up a lot more options over on that tile. But for now, let's go back to our starting tile and use gang for the investigation. We just need 2 die of a wild result, so let's roll and hope we don't get any stress. And perfect. So now we read entry 3. The landing pad is light on hardware, but it's clearly different from synthetic technology. In fact, in comparison, it's far less advanced, concentrating on mechanical techniques rather than any form of computer intelligence. Now, I don't want to split the party up too much, but I do want to explore this as much as possible, so let's go ahead and continue with gang and roll for an explore to the east. It will again take a wild result, so we're just hoping we don't roll a stress. And there we go. We'll move to the east and check out tile 2. Emerging from the access tunnel, you see before you a small cluster of windowless buildings. They appear remarkably well fortified. To the south, a larger structure lies, the entrance to which is behind a very secure looking access port. All right, so at least we've come up on a dead end over here, so we know there's nowhere else for us to explore this way. We do only have 1 action die remaining with the gang, so we could use that to move back with everyone else, but I figure while we're here, let's go ahead and use it for this investigation that's repeatable to see what that's going to give us. The entrance to this structure is solid and imposing. Without a blocky looking keypad to one side, you wouldn't know how to get further. The interface looks simple, but you've still got to see the access code to open the door. Guess it's time to see what you can remember from your standard issue training in computer code breaking, unless you think you can brute force it. To explore and move to card 5, we need a skill 4 intelligence check, or if we have the local diagrams achievement, we only need a skill 2 intelligence check. Once this has been successfully completed, explore and move to card 5. Well, we definitely cannot get those. We only have a skill value of 1 and no more die to commit. So that will just end Gang's turn. Now, looking at the tile that Gang just discovered, there is a intelligence skill check on there, and we know we need intelligence for that investigate that we just did with Gang. Magician has a 2 in intelligence, so I think we want to start sending her over there as well. So to get over on that tile, we need to commit 1 die, so let's roll. And the wild will get us there. We will then attempt this intelligence 3 skill check. We have an intelligence of 2, so we'll commit 1 die and hope that we roll a move. And we got it. So let's read entry 5. Most of the small buildings here are filled almost wall to wall with various pieces of machinery you can't identify. However, one is empty aside from a large diagram on the wall. While you're not entirely sure of its purpose, it does contain several repeated patterns. Now you've studied them, perhaps they'll give you an advantage in gaining access to the secure area to the south. Gain local diagrams. All right, so that's the achievement we needed to have the easier option in going to that investigation check where Gang was. And since we still have 2 available action die with Magician, let's go ahead and do that investigation. So let's roll. We just need a wild result. Perfect. And now we have an intelligence check where we only need a value of 2, and we already meet that with our skills, but anytime you do a check, you always have to commit at least 1 die. So we will be committing our last die with Magician. Let's go ahead and roll. Okay, we will happily take the stress to complete this. So on a success, we explore and move to tile 5. The thick metal door slides open, revealing the interior of the cavernous structure beyond. There are rows and rows of smaller cube shaped buildings, lined up neatly inside the larger one. Each of these cubes has an open archway and contains a variety of readouts, panels, screens, and indicators. So I'm definitely liking how our exploration to the east has played out. We've got one of our most intelligent minds down here with all the intelligence checks, so that worked out nicely for us. Gang and Magician are out of available actions, so we'll return back to the Western and starting point to continue with Heart and Mad Monk. Now, when we look at Heart, Heart has a 2 and Dexterity, and there are several Dexterity checks over here where Mad Monk is, so I think we are going to try to send Heart over there. Heart isn't particularly good at strength checks. We do have a value of 1, though, so we do still need to assign 2 attack die to this to succeed. And I think I'm going to play it a little bit safe, and we're going to commit 3 die to this action, so hopefully 2 out of 3 of those will be attacks. And perfect. We can assign the 2 attacks with our 1 strength value in order to explore. And I don't think we want to move from here just yet. We only have 1 die left with Heart. Let's go ahead and use it on this investigate up top. The control complex is squat and functional, smaller even than the docking bases of the claws surrounding it. Heading inside, you find a machine covered in lights and arrows. It must control the docking claws, so it should be easy to get it to release that freighter, right? If you have the Gotcha Admin achievement, read entry 9A, otherwise read entry 9B. Okay, so another achievement we're looking out for here. The docking claw control system locks up as you try to operate it. It's hard to tell from the flashing red lights, but you'll probably need admin rights on this system, as well as the ID number of any ship you want to release. Lose 2 energy. Ouch. So, Heart, just like that, is going to go down to 3 energy. And with that, we only have Mad Monk remaining with 3 different action die we can use. So it said not only do we need the admin rights, but also the number of the ship. And so when I look at this using some context clues, there is an exploration to the north, and if that's where the ship is, maybe if we move up there, that's where the number will be. And we can maybe like get a closer look at the ship with Mad Monk. So we only need 2 wild die. We're going to commit 2 die to this with Mad Monk to try to move north. Okay, we will take 1 stress, but then we get to move and explore 7. The elevator clanks as it slowly rises up the docking claw. Above you, the docked freighter grows slowly closer. Wherever it came from, this vessel is clearly less technologically advanced than the Sparrow. In fact, it could even be a sub-jump class. On top of that, it's old and covered in scrapes, marks, and dents. It looks like it's been dragged through an asteroid field backwards. It's therefore surprising when you see parts of the freighter light up. While it's unexpected, it doesn't seem dangerous yet, so you let the elevator finish its journey and walk in through the airlock. And we've only got 1 remaining die available to us, so let's just go ahead and we'll start with an investigation on 24. We just need a wild, so no stress. And there we go. In the center of the freighter lies a long, vaulted chamber containing at least 100 separate cryobays. The crew members inside are an unfamiliar alien species. They are tall, with long limbs and 3 large eyes. Their skin ranges from a rich purple to a vibrant teal, and each of them appears to have unique tattoos or patterns on different parts of their body. Almost all the cryobays are well maintained and frosty to the touch. However, one appears to be malfunctioning, and its occupant will need to be revived soon. The readout next to this pod reads Joti. Perhaps it's their name. If you can work out a way to get the freighter away from the asteroid, then maybe you can help them out. But for now, you've got too much to worry about. Joti will have to stay here for a bit longer. And now we just have our end of round phase where we will just regather all of our committed dice and go back into the next round, starting with our reduce energy phase. So we are all going to go down to 4, except for Heart now, who is down to 2. Let's start by continuing our investigation on the freighter with Mad Monk, and we're going to try that 25 investigation. That's a success. Compared to the Sparrow's engine room, this is small and cramped. Thick pipes run along the floor, walls, and ceiling, leading to the main engine at the rear of the freighter. Your suspicions were correct. This vessel is only capable of sublight speed, and from the look of its setup here, it's not even particularly fast at sublight speeds either. Could you tune it up with a bit of work? If you decide to try and improve the engine performance, perform the skill check below, otherwise continue exploration. So we have the option for a dexterity skill check of a 4 value, or a dexterity skill check for a 2 value, and the Sparrow loses 2 supply. Now, Mad Monk's dexterity value is 0, so even with our 3 remaining die, we would not be able to succeed at that without losing 2 supply, and I really don't want to do that. So we might save that for Heart. So for now, we're just going to continue exploring. And considering Heart also has a better charm value, We'll probably save that for him as well, and we're just going to use 2 die to move back down onto the tile below. And with not much for Mad Monk to do on this tile as well, if we look down here, we can explore tile 6 for 1 wild, so we're going to roll for that. And with that strength skill check there, that seems like as good a place as any for Mad Monk to be. For Heart's turn, let's go ahead and move up to that freighter. And success. And because we want to start with as many of our skill die as possible for that dexterity check, since it was a value of 4 unless we spent 2 supply, we're going to go ahead and use this charm repeatable action here. And it looks like we need to roll attack die for this. So we're going to hope we roll that with our 2 remaining die. We do have a skill value of 1 with charm, so we do only need one of these to be an attack. And because we don't have to assign all die to a check, and we could gain 1 stress to reroll everything, just taking the success with 1 of the stress is essentially the same thing. So we'll just raise our stress by 1 and only assign 1 of those to a check, plus our 1 charm to succeed. You've barely stepped onto the bridge when a mechanical arm descends from the ceiling. On the end of it is a vid screen displaying a simple image of a face, 3 dots for eyes, and a curled line for a mouth. Oh my, it's lovely to meet someone new. The voice is tinny, emanating from a small speaker on the side of the screen. You must be wondering what we're doing here. Let me explain. But first, introductions. My name is AM1, although mostly just call me Amy. I'm the onboard AI for this vessel, the research freighter Gyan. An awkward wave from yourself prompts the face on the screen to flicker and change to a broadly smiling expression. My crew have been in cryosleep for hundreds of cycles. Amy continues her story. Our mission is to research the very edge of the galaxy, the abyss. We've been traveling from the Firsten system on the opposite side of the galaxy. Because of the long voyage, the crew were placed in cryosleep for the journey. I'm programmed to look after them while they sleep. I docked here looking to refuel and perform maintenance. Imagine my surprise when the automated systems here clamped our freighter and refused any communication requests. We've been stuck here ever since. Everyone exchanges confused looks, wondering why Amy didn't revive the crew and get them to solve the problem. You're probably wondering why I didn't revive the crew and get them to solve the problem. Well, that's simple enough. Mission parameters clearly state the crew are only to be revived when we reach our destination, not before. And because there's no way to express this without me just saying it, there is a winky face emoji after that. Amy is clearly a well meaning but rather basic AI. It seems that she's been stuck in a logic loop waiting for the external assistance she needs. Please help release the docking clamp and let me get my crew to their destination, she requests. Only 2 other travelers have ever stopped here, and they were destroyed by the automatons. You have detected the signal that builds up to their launch, haven't you? There's no time to waste. Amy changes her display to show a series of symbols. That's our vessel ID number. You'll need it to release the clamp. And we gain the achievement Logic Loop. So we have Logic Loop now, which seemed to be one of the requirements, but the one it listed during that first check was the Gotcha admin. So it looks like we need to find that as well. And now we'll get back to focusing on our Eastern explorations. And let's go ahead and start with Magician and try that number 19 Investigate. We just need 2 wilds. One of the cubicle buildings seems to have a series of panels containing readouts for each of the docking claws. Judging by the red and green lights on them, you can tell that all of the docking claws are empty apart from one. Meanwhile, another claw appears to be damaged and not working. Isn't it handy that every alien species seems to use green and red to mean the same things? And I was really hoping that would give us something to help with the intelligence skill check, but it looks like we are just going to go for it. So we do have 2 intelligence, meaning we can potentially roll the 2 successes we need on our 2 remaining dice. So let's go for it. And that is perfect. As far as you can tell from the icons and diagrams on this panel, it's connected to the docking claw control complex. However, that's where the simplicity ends. There aren't many controls on this panel, so it's likely the actual operation of the docking claws is controlled on site. However, it seems those controls won't work without being activated here first. You flick a switch and give yourself admin rights over the docking claw control system, gain gotcha admin. Okay, so now it does seem like we have the 2 achievements necessary to complete that mission. And now Gang doesn't really have a reason to go south. So Gang is going to start heading back, and we only need 1 die to head back to the starting point. And I think we've got things covered on the western front with Hart and Mad Monk, so let's go ahead and explore this last tile south. So we take one stress, but we do good to explore. It quickly becomes apparent how vast the docking bay is. Cut deep into the asteroid, every surface inside is lined with docking gantries and assembly machinery in a gigantic, complicated production line. There are hundreds of automatons here, in various stages of construction. The area is simply too big to completely search before the signal reaches its maximum intensity and all these fighters and bombers launch. Searching further into the asteroid depths would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. It looks unlikely you'll be able to stop that countdown at this rate. You only really have time to search around the docking bay's entrance. Okay, we've got a lot of one die points of interest around here. Let's start with the intelligence skill check. We only need to roll one die and we can get anything because we do have one intelligence on our character board already. Looking at the snake like production line stretching back into the asteroid's depths, you wouldn't be surprised if the entire rock was hollowed out. Is this some kind of self replicating factory? Who could have built it and why would it be here? Is it sent to distant galaxies so the fighters can make war? If so, why? Given that you can't read anything around here and there's no one to talk to, your theories are probably all you'll get. And we'll use our last die to check out 12. Set apart from the main production lines is an area surrounded by robotic arms. After poking and prodding at the controls for a few minutes, it becomes apparent that this is a repair and upgrade bay. It'd be rude to not make use of it, wouldn't it? You may spend 5 credits to gain 1 energy, or you may spend 10 credits to gain Tech Upgrade 15. And I think we're doing fine on energy with gang, so we are definitely going to spend 10 credits to gain Tech Upgrade 15. So let's check that out. So we've now gained the Gravity Push Tech Upgrade. It can go on a heavy ship, and we use a supply, which it comes with 4 of, to push any number of ships in range 2, 3 spaces away. So that seems really good for somebody like Magician that wants the units to be farther away for like the long shot. So we'll probably end up putting this on Magician whenever we go to our next space combat. All right, so we're back to the end of round phase. We get all of our committed die back. And now we're back to the energy reduction phase where everybody goes to 3 except for Hart, who goes to 1. And now my heart is breaking a little because I just realized something. The number 25 investigate is not repeatable. So since we did not decide to repair it then and there, we don't have another opportunity to do that. So we were going to attempt to do that, but since that is not an option anymore, we are just going to move and we need 2 die to do that. And now with our 2 remaining die, let's go ahead and first try to do this skill check right next to heart. It's a 2 dexterity skill check, which we just have, so we actually only need to commit 1 die, and we got it. The remains of this wrecked freighter are old and twisted. You can only assume it was docked here a long time ago before crashing down to the asteroid's surface. There does appear to be a damaged docking claw up there. Perhaps the freighter tried to leave without fully being unclamped. Why would it do that? On the upside, despite its age, you managed to salvage some useful components from the wreck. The Sparrow gains 2 supply. Okay, so our Sparrow now overall goes up to 7 supply. And there's really not much for Magician to do at the moment. Magician would basically just be using their turn to kind of get back with everyone else. And there's still a lot to investigate with Gang, so let's go to Gang for a minute and continue investigating that tile 4. So we're just going to go in numerical order here and we'll just investigate 14. Toward one side of the docking bay is an autofighter that looks slightly different from the others. At first glance, it shares the same basic configuration but is somewhat larger. Upon closer examination, it appears its automated systems are in repair mode. Could it be reprogrammed to target the other automatons? To continue, perform the skill check below or continue exploration. Okay, this one isn't repeatable, so we either do this or we don't get the chance. The skill check is a 4 value dexterity check. Okay, so Gang does have 1 and we have 3 remaining die. So this is possible. It's looking for movement die results. And we have a note. The player making the roll may spend supplies from the Sparrow to decrease the difficulty of this check. Okay, so 1 supply makes it 3, 3 makes it 2, and 7 makes it 1. Well, we're able to do this without spending supply as long as we roll all movement symbols. So I think we're just going to try it here. Okay, so we got 2 movement results. We are going to take 1 stress going up to 2 to try to reroll that attack. And we got it. Inside this autofighter, there is nothing you've seen before. A strange amalgamation of advanced and basic technologies. Industrial scale pistons somehow connect to plasma conduits, and intricate optical circuit boards are wired into the sort of engines you'd expect to find in museums. It's as if this asteroid's factory were basing these vessels on several types of technology, all combined into something new. Despite the confusing mishmash of tech inside the fighter, you think you've managed to change its targeting priorities. The next time the asteroid launches an attack, this fighter will be on your side instead. Gain Man on the Inside achievement. Okay, that's very cool. I wonder how that's going to play out. But that did take all of our die for Gang, so not much more we can do there. So let's go back to Mad Monk. Mad Monk is perfectly prepared for this strength of 2 skill check. We only need 1 die because we have a 2 value strength, and we got it. You notice what appears to be graffiti on the wall of the access tunnel. It says Praise Krobnor in blue capital letters. The panels it's painted on appear to be loose, and it's a simple matter to pry them off. Behind them, you find an interesting piece of tech. Did someone stash this here? You can't imagine why, but it might be useful. Gain Tech Upgrade 20. And now we have command. So obviously a command ship will need this. It comes with 4 supply, and you can target 1 person in a range of 4 to perform a basic move for the target ally. Okay, really cool. Just some helpful extra movement around. That definitely seems like an ability that Gang might have. Then let's go ahead and investigate 20. The access tunnel opens up into a tiny room here. You gaze out of the window at the desolate surface outside. There isn't anything remarkable about this asteroid crust at all. Perhaps a mineralogist would get excited about those metals and compounds that Perkins mentioned, but to you it's just another barren lump of space rock. At least the view is nice. From here you can see the old freighter nestled in its docking arm. In fact, now you look closer, are there blinking lights on that freighter? And luckily for us, it only costs 1 die to move back into tile 4, and then we can use our last die with Gang to check out number 15 that we weren't able to with Gang because we ended up needing to use all of our die. So let's go ahead and move and investigate. Okay, so we'll go up to 2 stress. The only thing between the interior of the docking bay and the vacuum of space is a pulsing blue force field. If you can deactivate it, you could create an explosive decompression. It might damage the automaton production line, which could buy you some extra time. The only risk is that you have no idea how big of an explosion it would be. If you decide to try and disable the force field, perform the skill check below, otherwise continue exploration. And now we don't have any more die to try to put towards this. So similar to the other two, we're not going to be able to do this skill check and we're not going to be able to retry it. So we will just end Gang's turn there. And now we'll finally finish up with Heart and we will go back to that investigate that required us to have those 2 achievements. So we'll take 1 die for 9. And so since we have the gotcha admin, we'll now read entry 9A instead. With your newfound admin rights, the entire board is covered in green flashing icons and symbols. However, any elation you feel is quickly squashed as the machine seems to ask for a code or ID number of some kind. And now, if we have logic loop, which we do, we go to 9C. To one side of the machine are a series of dials. You rotate them until the readout matches the symbols Amy gave you. In response, the machine lights start to flicker a pleasing blue color. Pistons and machine arms begin clanking and twisting high up above you in the structure of the docking arm until, with a deep scraping noise, the claw around the gyan slowly opens. The freighter engines slowly kick into life and it gently moves away from the docking claw. Free at last. Gain the unclamped achievement. And we end world exploration and go to scenario 11.3. And that is the end of scenario 11.2, our first world exploration in Stars of Akarios. This has been Solo Party. My name is Kane. Thanks for watching.